All right. So you've joined just in time to watch me sneeze, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those weird moments you feel it coming on. We're back with David Patterson, Officer David Patterson. And in the Kentucky Constitution, your title is peace officer, right? Is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple of different. Peace officer is the one typically used to describe municipal police and things like that. I think it. I'd have to go back and read the statute, but yeah, I know peace officer is what we're referred to. So
cool. So we had a bunch of questions from last time, and I'm trying to bring these videos down to like a half an hour so that people don't just see the size of the video and go, I don't have that kind of time on my hands. So I think we'll probably just get through the questions from last time, really.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
But
perhaps when we have time, we could do just a thing where you and I, we don't have to live stream it. We can just video it, and you and I talk about the questions that were asked, and then you could post it up later.
Let's just continue with this.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
So Aiden Davis was asking what we as a party can do to make it more easily accessible, especially to those in law enforcement. And by the way, if I mention you, kind of like chime in that you were here, yay, I got to hear my question or whatever, because if you're not here, I'll try to share this with you explicitly, just so you know your question was answered. But I'm sorry, David. So Aiden wanted to know what we as a party can do to make it more accessible, especially to those in law enforcement.
Well, I think the party is accessible to those in law enforcement. It's accessible to anybody who wants to learn about it or to join or to participate. I think really the question is, and I'm not wanting to put words in his mouth, but I think the real question that we might need to ask is what can we do to bring maybe the libertarian-minded officers and I think probably make it less hostile.
There we go.
I don't have a problem putting up with it. People that I know that know me and that know how how I am as a human being and an individual and as an officer, they don't. We go into some of these things and we see this and we say why did they? Well, law enforcement are a group of individuals, but we're all individuals, and we all have feelings, and we all laugh and we all cry and we have families. Yes, we're police officers, but that's our profession.
Right.
And we're all individual human beings. And so, I would ask that anybody who was interested in better opening an avenue for libertarianism or activism within the group to try to curb the hostility to the group as a whole and see us as individuals. If you see some police officer on the news beat the crap out of somebody, don't look at me and say you did that.
Right.
And so I think accessibility is not the issue. I think a better understanding of how we feel as individuals is probably the better path. Is to try and listen, try to understand.
I'm wondering if we even do that to teachers sometimes, which maybe
happens a lot.
And kind of spoiling the surprise, but I'm going to be on with Amanda Billings on Monday. We're going to be talking about school choice. And I explicitly do not think that school choice is anti-teacher. As a matter of fact, if there were more school choice, I may have even would have been open to that as a profession. I mean, for me, school choice for me, teaching would be completely off the menu because I've known good teachers, and some of those good teachers are absolutely miserable And I think that kind of plays into what we can do. And I think we have a later question on this too, but that plays into something we can do is libertarians is we need to be we need to be making law enforcement something more tolerable for a libertarian to do. Like I saw this just before we came on. Hannah Cox posted, if you don't like the repercussions of a police state, you should probably stop asking for more laws and regulation. It's that simple. Right. So yay, Hannah. But she was writing that in relation to a Reason Magazine article on the New York Times recoils at the predictable consequences of mandatory COVID-19 precautions it supports. And I mean, I've been that way on like DPA, the Defense Production Act. It's like, really, we're going to force people to produce meat, or even ventilators. When we were saying we all need ventilators, it's like, empty out the factories. It's dangerous. You can't go to work. You got to make ventilators. You got to go to work. It's like, and ultimately that ends up with a freaking gun, and that ends up with
it's bad that the people that want to go out and protect people, and they want to go out and help people, and they want to go out and do the right thing, when their honest, genuine concern for the public gets negated by people that make really, really bad laws. They make bad laws, and then they say, hey, this is the law now, go enforce it. And it's unfortunate. I think it really is.
Now, I hear your message about not grouping people all together, and I agree with that. And again, carry that over to educators. I think there's educators I absolutely abhor. There's cops I absolutely abhor. There's educators that I think are incredible. There's cops that I think are incredible. What was that guy's name? Greg Anderson. He basically got fired because he put out a video.
Right.
And his was almost like a warning. I mean, he was basically saying, you do not want to let our governors push us into open conflict with society, because you'll be able to maintain law for like 10 minutes. That's it.
Right.
Because he was in Fallujah. He knows how that goes down. He knows what it takes, and he knows you don't want to be there. But it's kind of weird because our relationship was almost forged through my disdain for cops.
Right.
Because when I was first meeting you, I was one of those people. I would see a cop in McDonald's and get nervous about the cop in McDonald's. Right. You could have a drug dealer in McDonald's and I would see a gun on him, and I'm comfy with them, just because it's like, I'm not trying to steal their drugs. I'm not trying to, unless they seem high at the time, I don't care.
Right.
But a cop made me nervous, and I'm not saying that's the way it should be. It's just, that's just where I was.
Right.
But I don't know. So kind of thanks for being my friend over the years.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think I've actually, you're not the first person that has said that to me. There's a lot of people that I've got a really, really, really great girlfriend who absolutely couldn't stand cops, and she still has a problem. She still has an issue with them. And but since meeting me and getting to know me, she's like, all right, maybe it's not all of you.
Well, I'm not.
I can hope for.
I'm not completely over it. Yeah, I
mean,
I see a cop. I'm 70% mistrust.
All I can do is hope that I can get that first little foot in the doorway with people like you and people like my friend, and if I can do that, and just open that door, then maybe the next guy that comes along, or the next gal that's a cop, maybe that person will be able to bring you further into a little bit better acceptance, and maybe less fear.
Right. So I messed up something last time I was on, and Lex thought we were unprepared, and it's more like I was unprepared. I didn't think through something, because Lex was like, why didn't David know laws that he wouldn't enforce? Well, that's easy, actually. If you think about it for like half a second, it's because you can't like go around announcing stuff you won't enforce. If you put, not just David, if you put law enforcement in general in a box of tell me what aspects of your job you won't do,
right?
They're not going to be able to tell you guys.
Yeah. And the reality is that the NAP, and I know, Rob, we talked about this a little bit, but the NAP specifically states advocating. And,
that's true.
I believe it uses that word, and I'm not advocating. I don't advocate for a lot of the laws and that I've had to enforce. And so just because I have to enforce something doesn't mean I want. So I believe there's a fine line there, but the reality is that if you equate an officer enforcing a law that he doesn't want to enforce or that he doesn't believe in, if you equate that with a violation of the NAP, we're not going to have any police officers in the Libertarian Party, period.
And I think there's a danger in that there's certainly shades of gray. I mean,
right.
Frankly, my friend, there are lines that you could be asked to cross, and if you cross them, I'm not going to like you anymore.
Right.
But
sure.
I have a lot of faith you won't. But it's most of us have done something at work before. A boss has asked us to do something before that we didn't feel great about. Right. We don't. Most of us don't quit for every infraction against our morality, but at the same time, as many of those little things as I've done, I've certainly put my job on the line before. I've certainly told people, no, this I won't do.
Right. And I've done that too. Not literally. I've never ever felt that I've been put in a position where I had to quit or I had to leave that department. Never felt that way. But I have a list. I have a list of things that I would say, I'm not going to broadcast it, but there are things that I would say, I'm sorry. I would do it respectfully, but I would say, sorry, I can't do that.
Right.
And, this whole mask thing, that has been a source of contention at many departments. And for me personally, if my department says, we're going to require you to wear a mask in these certain situations, no problem. I'm not losing my job over a mask. I'm not leaving over a mask.
Sure.
But I would also not, as long as I'm not required to drive around in a car with it all day, which I wouldn't be. That's silly. But if my employers said, hey, we want you to wear a mask and we want you to do this or that or the other, I've got no problem with that at all. It's not a problem. It's something that I enjoy where I work. I like my job. I like the city I live that I work in. I like the people that I work for.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a mask on to go and talk to people. I can handle that if it's depending
sure.
on the circumstances. So, but yeah. I'm sorry, that was kind of a tangent. But I thought it kind of
this is all tangent.
Yeah,
I did think of one. Feel free to say no comment if you want to say no comment.
All right.
But I think this one's an easy one, and I'm matching you here. I'm gonna throw a few votes away. I don't know how many. I'm not a bake the cake libertarian. I'm just not. I'm a bake the cake libertarian. Remember, bake the cake.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Gary Johnson, bake the cake
Gotcha.
Libertarian. At least you folks know I don't rehearse these.
No, I'm sorry. It took me a second, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yes.
I know. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not that I think that person's in the right. I probably wouldn't be buying cakes from them anymore. It's just
Right.
my contention is I would never ever ever under any circumstances want to eat a cake that was prepared by someone who was forced to prepare it, someone who
Right.
specifically didn't, to me, the fallacy is just there out of the gate. It's not a way to build a community. It's not a way to bring them over to your perspective. It's, it's antithetical to its own cause. That's
Right.
all it is. But
Sure.
I believe you're comfortable commenting on like that cartoon, Bake the Cake. What would you do?
Well,
Or you can
well,
say no
just
comment.
no. I don't care. So, are you talking about that particular circumstance and my opinion of it?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure everybody knows what you're talking about, but I guess for those who don't, there was a lawsuit brought against a bakery, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and they I believe a homosexual couple wanted to ask the bakery to bake them their wedding cake, and the bakery refused based on their belief that homosexuality was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or immoral, or what have you. And so the couple evidently sued and won. Or did they win? Yeah, they
Yeah,
won,
they
didn't they?
won.
Yeah. And
It it
so,
it got I think the bakery won in like appeal. I don't
right.
remember.
Okay.
It's been a while.
I don't know. But yeah, so baking the cake. So what do I think?
Yeah.
I think that if a store says don't come in our store unless you have a mask on, or you
Yeah.
can't shop here, if I need something from that store, I'll put a mask on and go in and get what I need, because I'm respecting the stores. I'm respecting their wishes. As a consumer, I'm going to go in and I'm going to purchase my stuff there because I want to buy it there. And if they want me to wear a mask in their store, then I'm going to do it. Same thing.
Yeah.
If this baker or whatever doesn't want to bake a cake for somebody, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, they should have the right to refuse service to anybody. And
Right.
so, and once again, still the same thing. Do you really want to? I wouldn't shop there.
Right.
I am a heterosexual male, and if I wanted a cake for my wedding or for my child's birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going there to get it. After pulling that and them not wanting to bake cake for somebody, I'm not going to shop there. But that's my choice.
So Clyde's bringing up a hot topic.
Okay.
He wants to know if I'm going to ask you any real questions about your violations of the statement of principle. So
Uh-huh.
that's been referred to the
His
membership review committee.
his perception is that I violated that. So
Right.
no, I don't have anything
I
to say
don't
to
think.
Clyde.
Well,
I don't. He can
I have a,
he,
I have
he
a
can
few.
think what he wants.
I have a few
You go
things.
you go right ahead.
I have a few
I'll
things.
sit back and I'll sit back and chime in if you want me to, but you go ahead.
So first, that is actually, just so everybody knows, that is the first actual complaint to the membership review committee since its incarnation, since its existence. It's the first one. We've had people come and tell us before they were gonna, but this is the first one, and they've communicated with us, and they're having a meeting tonight, and I don't think it really appropriate for us to talk about it a whole lot.
Right.
Except I'm kind of caught in a catch-22 because I'm a candidate. And I kind of brought up the first bit of it because if the way I brought it up, I mean, if you look at my demeanor, I think it's pretty arguable that I was promoting arrest of DUIs. So I'm comfortable addressing that. There hasn't been a complaint against me yet. So I feel like I'm free to speak on that, and I think it's important I speak on that. I've talked to David at length over the years about things I don't like about the DUI law. I'm not happy with the open container aspect of it. If I'm driving down the road stone cold sober and David, feel free to put on a poker face for all of this, but I'm driving down the road stone cold sober and my buddy's having a drink. Man, that's not putting anyone at risk. There's several things in the law like that. It's not entirely a moral law, but the main component of the law has to do with reckless endangerment. Me personally, I would be happier if it were just reckless endangerment. It's not so much I think people should be arrested for DUI. I think they should be arrested for reckless endangerment. It's just that's not the way the law is written right now. You have a specific law for this specific infraction with a specific number, and I'm not really happy about any of that. But whatever a person's going to get in trouble for spinning in a crowd while pulling triggers on a handgun, or driving down the highway blindfolded, or trying to drive while fornicating in the car, any crazy thing you come up with like that, yes, I have a problem with it. Who is the victim? Because I'm the victimless, no victim, no crime guy. Who is the victim? So I have to own up to this. And my answer is this, is if people are on the road putting lives at risk, I mean, recklessly putting lives at risk. The truth of the fact is I drive to McDonald's to get a cheeseburger. I'm putting lives at risk a little, but that's why it's reckless endangerment. If I'm on the road putting people's lives seriously at risk, then everyone in the community is impacted. Kids can't go to their prom. People don't feel safe going to McDonald's to get the cheeseburger. Kids can't go out on dates. Everyone's endangered. They can't live their lives. You are taking their liberty from them by putting them at risk. The fear of what's going to happen to them because a bunch of maniacs are out on the road. So that's why I applaud, I encourage, I endorse, I improve, whatever you want to put to it, that activity, the idea of a police officer making sure people aren't on the highways drunk. And I know I'm heated, Clyde. I promise that's not actually at you. It's just I feel really strong about this. Frankly, I'm glad you filed the complaint. I'm not upset about it. David's not upset about it. We're not going to talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I'm not upset at all.
The reason I'm not upset about it is I think it's a good thing for the party to address. I think it's a good thing for the membership review committee to address.
Yeah.
Because we need to know if people who believe what I just stated are welcomed or not.
Yeah. And can I throw in just one thing?
If you want.
Clyde, I'll tell you this right now. If the membership review committee comes back and they say, we want you to leave the party because we feel like you're in violation of the NAP, I won't give them any trouble. I won't badmouth them. I will leave the Libertarian Party. I will stay registered as a Libertarian because that's what I am.
Right.
But I would gladly not put anybody at unease if they find that I was in violation of that. The other thing, Rob, is that in Kentucky, and I just want to throw this out as a point, we don't actually have a reckless endangerment charge. It's wanton endangerment.
Wanton.
And wanton is a little bit different than reckless.
Okay.
In the manner of intent.
Okay.
And so if you wantonly get behind the wheel of a car, then I agree with you. I think wanton endangerment is the perfect charge for that. But once again, we didn't write the laws, and until we can get some libertarians in there to try and maybe consolidate
them up.
I think you can consolidate a lot of stuff, So
yeah, I've commented before. A lot of my career is reduction of source code. Basically taking lots and lots of rules, looking for underlying concepts, and condensing it. So I would love to do that in DC too.
Yeah.
We had other questions though. So I think we're through the first question, and that only took 24 minutes. Sorry. Um, all the way back to Aiden Davis. He wants to know how we can make our party more mainstream in the eyes of audiences.
More mainstream.
Well, I actually have a suggestion on that because
yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's to me, it's what we're actually doing here, but I can't do it. I can't make it mainstream by brute force. But what I'm trying to do is I'm having different people on from different perspectives. I mean, they're all libertarian perspectives, but different libertarian perspectives. But I need it. I need the audience's help, and it's not just about me. You know, facets of groups of people that you feel like I'm not addressing. You know, help me understand who I need to get on here. We can have these with whoever in whoever's walk of life. You know, I'm planning on having all of our candidates on here. Please go to my page, Perry for KY, and there's a candidates tab. You can go to the candidates page on my candidate page, and you can see all our candidates. I'm planning on having all of those on, but I need you guys to help get it out there organically. I need you to talk to your friends about this, your parents about this, your brothers, your sisters, your siblings, your schoolmates, whatever. I mean, this is kind of the Gary Johnson model. And I know we're not all fans of Gary Johnson, but that's okay. I think he had the right model in this concept is we make ourselves more acceptable by there being a lot of us. So that's what I'm doing.
And I think feedback. If you're a libertarian and you want things to be more mainstream,
right?
I hate to be a YouTube video, but you got to like stuff. You have to share things. You have to encourage your friends to just check this out. If you are presented with an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody who is frustrated with the totalitarianism that's going on right now, please have a conversation with them.
Right.
That doesn't work. Just talk. Have a conversation. It's great.
That plays in with Aiden's next question, which was, and how may we be able to bring our party together?
Good luck. We are a very, very, very complex group. And,
well, that's what I love about us.
Yeah, so do I. We are a very, very complex group. And if you're looking at, oh gosh, I can't even. I mean, it's so complex. One single issue can divide a room, even amongst libertarians. One single issue,
right?
People get heated,
right?
I mean, they get upset.
I'd name one, but me and you would end up in a fight. And
no. I'll name one. Abortion.
Okay. Yeah,
abortion is a hot button issue for everybody, or for most people, and you have two in every party: Republican Party, Democratic Party, Libertarian Party. You have people on both sides, and so I'm telling you, you get a group of libertarians together and you bring up abortion, it can get heated. So I it's how do we bring? Oh gosh, I don't know.
I think we got to focus more on the mainstream strategy. I mean, we got to remember that we're not in perfect alignment, but when we compare the differences between you and I versus the differences between the D's and R's, do we really want to be wasting energy on this fight?
Right.
I mean, like, I'm trying to come up with a second. So, okay, Clyde's a big guy. He's not going to get upset, hopefully. But, no offense, man. Sorry. It's just your handy example. The the idea of, is it an app violation to arrest somebody for DUI? I actually think there's some philosophical discussion there that's worth having.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of places in there where you and I don't agree, and me and Randall Daniel don't agree, and me and James Taylor don't agree. Sorry, Toller don't agree. Different James there. Sorry, James. All of us disagree on that. Thanks, Clyde. Clyde didn't get upset. We have a lot of disagreement on that. But we look at what the D's and R's doing. Well, we all agree that's wrong. Right. I mean, and I'm not saying we can't have these debates and we can't disagree. It's nothing like that. A lot of these things are healthy to have, but I do kind of wish we would focus a little more energy on the big evils. Right. I mean, I've been, because I'm a delegate, I've been on some of these practice calls for national. Mm-hmm. And I don't like the online convention. Right. As somebody who's worked remotely for almost 2 decades, I don't have faith in the online convention. I see a lot of problems with the online convention, but we're doing the online convention, so. Other than just way of example, you're not going to hear anything I just said. I am now on team make it work. Do I have faith in it? It's irrelevant. We're going to make it work. And we need to pull together more, guys. We need to focus on the big game. Reading list. Oh, wait, before that, Aiden, sorry, Clyde, Aiden asked a lot of questions last week. Aiden wanted to know how to better educate ourselves.
Reading.
Well,
discussion.
That's the one I'm excited about, because
discussion is wonderful.
Yeah,
that's how. I mean, I have to admit, when I first found libertarianism, it was just before the 12 election, so it would have been sometime in 2010, maybe. It was discussion, and I didn't know. I was ignorant, and luckily, I had people that I was talking to, libertarians that I was talking to, that were patient with me and didn't get frustrated with me, and they would answer. I felt free to ask questions. Why is this? Why is that? What does this mean? And the people that I was talking to were very, very, very patient and helpful with me. So discussion was my big thing. Now I have read some libertarian books, and I know we were gonna pop on that eventually, Rob. But
yeah, I'll just go through.
Go ahead.
So our kind of list there. We're always talking about Bastier's the law. What I really love about it, though, is like you can read through page 4, and if you're a clever person, you're kind of done. I love that about the law. He states it in a couple of base principles. You're good to go. We're both fans of F.A. Hayek, but that comes with a sort of disclaimer: is build your foundation before you read Hayek. Yes. Hayek's freaking brilliant, and a lot, probably 90% of my beliefs in terms of libertarianism relates to Hayek, but you need a foundation. And Frank Harris shared with David a video. I just put the link in the chat, and that's David says a really good video. I've not watched it, but it has to do with economics.
And if I may, just real quick, that video, really, 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 it's not so basic that you don't understand. I mean, how do I say this? It is complex enough to where it gives you a very, very, very good working example of how the economy works, and about how the different cogs on the wheel work. But it's not so advanced that somebody who maybe doesn't have a very good understanding of economics would get lost.
Right.
It's very, very simply done, and it's easy to understand. So yeah, it's a great video. I think.
Right. Cool. So, all right. By the way, I'm a huge fan of the classics. Adam Smith. Everybody knows The Wealth of Nations. I'm not going to tell you I've read The Theory of Moral Sentiment from cover to cover, because it is a really slow read. But it's a really important read, I think. So, at least go read some of the summaries of it. Maybe read a little of it, a chapter or two, try to get the gist of what he's trying to say there.
Right.
But it actually comes into play in what we were talking about earlier with Bake the Cake. Is the theory of moral sentiment helps you understand that the way to change the world around you, even in terms of non-economic stuff, is peacefully, socially. You build empathy and you build rapport. You teach people gently, this is a better way to behave, and you can bring the world along with you as they learn that. And that's in a much ignored book of Adam Smith, and it's really important to our movement.
Yeah, I have not read that.
Yeah,
I've heard of Smith, but I've never read that. And
yeah.
What was the one you mentioned before that?
Oh, the Wealth of Nations. Yeah,
yeah. I've heard of that one too.
Right.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never read it.
Well, if you read Hayek's The Fatal Conceit, he loves to reference The Wealth of Nations, because a big point Hayek makes is Darwin's theory of evolution was, he feels, modeled after The Wealth of Nations.
Okay.
Like basically, The Wealth of Nations introduces the concept of sort of natural selection in terms of business and economics.
Okay.
And then Darwin does it in terms of biological evolution. And then F.A. Hayek does it in terms of culture, which is really exciting, because he's basically saying religions, cultures, like the very idea of it's wrong to steal. Hayek is basically arguing it's not that it's wrong to steal, it's that societies who believe it's wrong to steal tend to emerge and prosper more. So I saw somebody on Facebook a few years ago said, if you weren't going to call them God-given rights, what would you call them? And I quickly responded with emerged rights or emergent rights, because if you're a student of Hayek, it's not necessarily that they're innate, it's that they're what kind of emerge. But that, sorry, I kind of slipped into egg-headed mode, and that's another really good point to make is, and you might have to get to know me better to really learn this is true. I am okay with you not knowing any of that. You don't have to know that. You learn these concepts however you learn these concepts. We get here different ways, and I hope some of you aren't looking down at me because I learned a lot of it with my nose in a book, and I'm not looking down at you because learned it with your nose out of a book. But I saw a member once just go off at somebody for not knowing what the NAP was. They'd showed up at one of our events. We've talked about the NAP a lot this call. And, this person was actually wanting to run for office. He didn't know what the NAP was. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't agree with it. And that's kind of the point the person was making was, he doesn't agree to the NAP. And I'm like, no, you're mishearing him. He doesn't know what the NAP is. That's actually different. And, the guy in question, calmed down, taught him what the NAP was. The guy moved forward. So how do we work better as a party like that? We empathize with each other. we listen to each other. We focus on the big game instead of trying to tear each other apart.
Yep.
So Jacob has a question.
Okay.
If police officers with their guns on their hips are implementing scare tactics, who's protecting us from them? And this is, I remember when he asked this, we didn't get to it, but this is specifically when we were talking about the police officers taking down the license plates numbers at the church that our buddy Randall went to.
Right. Right. And I guess really, I mean, I understand what Jacob's saying. The police officers, we all have guns on our hips. So, you don't really have to say that. You can just say, we all have guns on our hips. But I think the reality is that you don't. Why? Okay. Why do you need protection from them? And what I mean by that is this: those guys that were at that church, to my knowledge, were taking tag numbers down and putting notices on people's cars. It's a horrible thing that happened. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I'm saying is that those troopers, once again, and I'm going to say this again, the group of troopers that I know, they are absolutely some of the best-hearted individuals. They are strong-willed. They're proud, and they're the ones that I know are truly good people. And they serve the people, but they also serve at the pleasure of Frankfurt. And so if the governor says, go to this church and take these license plates down, they have a choice to make. And those guys chose to go and follow their orders because they knew they weren't going to arrest anybody. They knew they weren't going to cite anybody. Their specific orders, I'm sure their specific orders were what they did. They showed up, they wrote license plates down, and they did what they were asked to do. Now, let's talk about this. And we alluded to this in the last video. That is a scare tactic.
Yeah.
That was asked by the governor for those guys to go do.
Yeah.
And so that came from the governor, not the troopers. Now, I'll also say this. The people that are at that church, they didn't care. Now, I guarantee you there's not one or maybe one or two people there that were like, oh, crap. No, they weren't. Anybody who went out to that church was like, forget it. I'm going. I don't care what they do. And I know people that were at that church. I know of at least 3 or 4. They didn't care. They were making fun of it. They were like, look what they left on my car. And the people that they were trying to scare were the people at home that were going to see that on the news. The people that are frightened and that are scared of government. And the governor used those troopers as a tool to try and implement scare tactics on the TV. That's what that is. So how do you protect yourself from those troopers? Well, guess what? You didn't have to. Those troopers weren't there to do anything other than take license plates, which they have done nothing with, I'm sure.
Right.
Those guys probably got in their car and ripped that little sheet off and gave it to their supervisor, and the supervisor probably put it in the shredder. There's nothing going to come of that,
So Randy,
it's unfortunate. So
Randy and Jack, Randy and Clyde. Sorry, guys. I try to mostly pay attention to Dave and see stuff scrolling up. So I didn't keep an exact count. Correct me where I'm wrong, but we have maybe 173 references to Nuremberg and brown shirts and Nazis.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think they have a point, Dave.
Okay.
I mean,
well, I can't see the comments.
Well, just in general, I mean, there is a line. I mean,
okay.
I not that I like for people to feel duress, but frankly, I hope those cops, I hope those state troopers weren't entirely comfortable doing that.
I would almost guarantee you that they weren't. Now, I can't speak for them. I don't know. They could have gone into roll call, and whoever the captain is may have said, "Hey, I need a couple guys to go to this church. If anybody feels uncomfortable with it, don't worry about it." And then you're probably going to have a couple guys that went, "I don't care," and those are the guys that went and took that. I don't know. I have no idea. But the reality is that once again, and I'm going to reiterate this. Yes, those troopers had a choice. They could have said, "Yes, I'm going to go do this," or "No, I'm not going to do it," and face disciplinary action.
Right. But there's a point to me wanting them to feel nervous about it, because this is all shades of gray.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that had it went a little further.
1 second.
Okay.
You hope that they were nervous about it, about feeling like they had to go do it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope they felt uncomfortable feeling they had to do it, because it gives hope that had it escalated further, there's a line that they'll say no.
Okay. Now, in that light, I'm going to tell you this, and I haven't told it really a whole lot of people this, but when that whole thing came down,
you're about to.
Yep, I'm getting ready to tell you, because we talked about this earlier, and I didn't give you any examples, but I'm getting ready to give you one.
Okay.
If my supervisor had told me, "Hey, this church in our town is having a service, and I want you to go get the license plates of all the cars there," I would have said respectfully, "No, sir, I will not do that. I'm telling you right now, in front of everybody on this video, and everybody's going to watch this video, I would have said no. I would have done it respectfully, and I would have taken whatever consequences came from that."
Right.
And I wasn't nervous about it at all. Absolutely not.
But there's a consequence to us building a barrier to people like that would express what you just expressed, and people even who would say no at a different shade of gray. As we imagine all these different shades of gray of what would it take before the officer would say, "No, thank you, sir. I'm not willing to do that. Respectfully, I'm not willing to do that." As we imagine all those shades of gray, what we don't want to do is we don't want to force those people out of law enforcement. We don't want to make them feel miserable about their job. What I'm saying is, if we make a life miserable for law enforcement that somewhat agrees with us, or mostly agrees with us, or totally agrees with us, so that they can't stay in that job anymore, then the only law enforcement we're going to be left with is the people who are our complete enemies. And we don't want to do that, guys. I mean, never mind me being friends with Dave or anything like that. That is just strategically dumb. Just think it through. You don't want to torture law enforcement that has some empathy with you, because if you manage to convince them that you're right and they quit their job, who do you think's going to replace them? It's going to be somebody who empathizes with you less. That's just not a good strategy.
Right.
We need to be educating people. We need to be building empathy with people. We need to be building consensus. That was a question about how do we make this go mainstream. By the way, hello, Ann Fraser. I wasn't ignoring you. It's just, it's been a lot to cover. Hey, Dave, remember that time I said, let's keep it down to like half an hour?
Yeah, I looked at that about 10 minutes ago and just started. I kind of gave myself a little chuckle. Hey, listen, if you want to go ahead and cut this down, we can do it again. I seriously, I'll do this as much as your viewers want to have me on and ask questions. I'll do it. I have no problem with it.
I want to cover one more just because it's your favorite.
Sure.
We can cover it every freaking day, and you love covering it. Which kind of flavors the direction I think this is going to go. Lex wanted to know, how do we help police officers protect and serve us? And I don't even want you to answer that question. So me and Dave used to run together when Dave was running for the Senate. And he was making sure something was locked up in his car one day, and just kind of good-natured ribbing. I ask him, what, you're not trusting your fellow officers to keep your stuff safe? Do you remember that?
Oh yes.
Right.
I do.
Yeah.
Go on. Keep going.
Okay. It's mostly your job to take care of yourself, boys and girls. That's where I'm going with this. I've talked about this in my little short video about this is why Kentucky needs guns. We're a rural area. If you're 30 minutes from town, cops don't keep you safe.
No.
Cops may make sure the person that you weren't safe from wind up in jail, but they're not going to keep you safe.
And along the same lines, if you're in your home and somebody's breaking into your home actively, I'm guaranteeing you that by the time you hit 911 and tell them your address and what's going on, it's going to be at least 5 to 6 minutes minimum before an officer gets there. A lot can happen in 5 to 6 minutes. Arm
Absolutely.
yourselves, folks. Arm yourselves. Be a gun owner. Be a responsible gun owner. Learn how to shoot. Practice. Practice laying in bed. Pretend like you hear a sound. Roll out of that bed and know exactly where that weapon is and how to handle that weapon in the dark. You have to do these things. You have to protect yourself because police officers are a response. We are a response, and we are not going to get there faster than you can protect yourself. So that's all I'm going to throw in on that.
Cool. So we've been at it for 22 minutes longer than we were supposed to. Dave,
yes,
thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Guys, give some feedback. Something I really wanted to talk about goes back to just a really small statement Dave made back in 2014, and I went, "What the?" But he mentioned how much more complicated it is to investigate victimless crimes. And I'm just going to kind of leave it there. But you actually run into some logistical problems with investigating victimless crimes, and overcoming those logistical problems creates a nightmare of additional problems for us. And it's part of why I'm against victimless crimes. So maybe we do something on that, but give us some feedback. I know there were a couple of viewers that wanted to go a little more hardcore. Some of that's going to be handled by the membership committee. And in fact, I think they're meeting tonight. Tomorrow, I'm not doing one of these. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at the national convention, helping nominate who our presidential candidate is going to be. I'm excited about that. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. I love our candidate this year because, quite frankly, I love the whole lot of them. I'm going to feel bad about every single one of them I don't vote for. It's like the reverse of voting the lesser evil for me. It's like I love them so much.
Are you allowed to let your constituents in on who you're thinking about voting for? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I am. To my knowledge, I am, but I'm not going to, and I'll tell you why. Is we're 54 minutes into the last debate.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna watch that. I'm not done gathering information, and I'm a person that will gather information to the last bit. Randy was just mentioning Vermin Supreme. Yeah. I will divulge. I'm not a Vermin guy. I'm not a Vermin fan. He's not at the top of my list. But I tell you what, if he's our candidate, I'm gonna feel good about it.
He's so intelligent and well spoken.
He is.
He's incredibly intelligent.
He is. And guys, just because I'm not a Vermin guy, don't get me wrong, I'm in on the joke. I've been a Vermin fan for quite a while. It's just from a strategic perspective, I'm like, no. But I almost wish, you know, I could just live in each universe where we went with each candidate and see how it panned out, because
Right.
I think it's an awesome list of candidates.
Yep.
So I'm going to be there tomorrow. Monday, we're going to be talking to Amanda Billings about school choice, which we touched on tonight, and I'm really super excited about that. I don't know if anybody's caught on. I kind of have a thing for learning. And you know, there's nothing more important to me than making sure we have kids that are able to you know, grow into their potential. And I don't think you can do that with a single little extruding mechanism that is our current educational system. So please join me on Monday so that you can learn with me from Amanda about what some of our options are, and why they're so important. And this year, not only do you get to vote for me for a Congress, please go to Perry for Kentucky and donate, but Randy Jack is also nominating me to be on the committee for the Nuremberg. I'm very excited about this. So.
Sorry, I was looking at the comment down there.
Yeah, that's okay. Randy, Clyde, I hope you had some fun and entertainment here tonight. You know, we all come at this from different perspectives. I hope we can work together on some things. Have a good night, everybody. Hope to see you Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.